For some reason, these are the kind of games that really brings me back to my teenage years when open world survival games were just beginning in the gaming market, and for some clear reasons, the genre went to be the most popular in an instant with DayZ, Rust, Ring of Kings. Man, those were the days when survival games weren't just shitty unfinished project, and this new upcoming game called Nightingale brings me back to those days for some reasons, because it looks like a fun little Victorian survival game being made by ex-BioWare veterans and other developers from the industry. Today in this video we have brand new footage to show and new details thanks to IGN FanFest 2022, which gave us some really great stuff. So let's get into it and make sure you guys support if you enjoyed the video. Now first of all, if you didn't know, Nightingale is said to be launching this year on PC and consoles later on. And as you explore a massive, almost infinite open world with completely different realms, all having different creatures, enemies and wildlife. And these many realms will be accessible through portals hidden in the world. You can play this game completely alone and forge your own destiny, or unite with other players and combine your strengths and skills with your own customizable character. You'll be able to construct estates, farms and communities to live off the land. Craft the tools, gear and weapons you need to survive, all the while finding some extremely creepy and weird creatures, or maybe even become ally with some, like a giant for example. So let's get into the new details. One of the different factions you'll be fighting in these different realms are the Bound. This faction was created by the main enemies of the game, which are the Fae, and the Fae created the Bound to replicate the human species, but in a much more evolved and ideal kind of way. They don't look like humans at all, but it is what they would have wanted humans to look like this one with a wheel replacing his head, like a mimicry of humans. The Bound come in many forms, including minion creatures, magic users, tank-like creatures, and others. Other than that, you'll meet a ton of weird Victorian folklore-like creatures in this world, and a lot of times you'll have no idea how the developers thought about creating such a thing, and it's what will make this game special because there is a lot of different enemies. One other enemy will be a super dangerous one if it finds you, and it's called the Harp. This flying creature can steal things from the player's encampment and even disguise themselves as an old woman wrapped in cloaks or other entities to lure players into a false sense of security until they can get close, which is a really weird but awesome feature that I cannot wait to see in action. They also have the Bandersnatch, which is a pretty vicious cross between a raptor and a bat-like creature. They're pretty lively in the realms and they're not necessarily something you'd want to meet on a dark night, that's for sure. They're really dangerous. In the world, once a portal is found, which this portal brings you to a new world, players can decide whether they want to move on or to remain where they are in their world. There will also be some checks in place to ensure players have the correct gear and other resources to be able to survive what's on the other side. But you can simply decide to live in your world and stay there forever because each world will be huge. Nightingale has been in development for 3 years now, and the developer says during that time it evolved organically into the survival and crafting genre as a natural result of wanting to make a shared world space that players can impact while being impacted by the world. It takes place in the Fae realms, strange magical worlds previously connected by portals that have suddenly collapsed, leaving the players stranded. The developers also want players to feel like they are citizens of the world in a universe that already has a story for players to uncover if they so choose. Another element that Nightingale is borrowing from its BioWare roots is the notion of player choice. The developers are saying that player choice is a critical component of Nightingale, and Inflection is learning lessons from BioWare's games. It wants to ensure that Nightingale isn't full of false choice, or different choices that just ultimately lead to the same conclusion for all players, but some real choices that will affect your character, equipment, and the world itself. Alright guys, for more gaming news on this game or games similar to this one, make sure you subscribe and support.